right, ladies and gentlemen, in order to be successful for today, you need to have 2 pieces of paper. You need to have your essay from last night, your planning from last night, and you need to have your LEQ prompts because you're getting your homework, your last essay of the week, and I think it's honestly best one. And by best one, it was one I had to think of to come up with some examples. I'll be putting in some extra work into it this afternoon. Here we go. You are doing Unit 4, Question 5. It's going to get darker. Oh, you can't see any of it, so it doesn't matter. Unit 4, Question 5. Period 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, dude, right here. In the period of 1450 to 1750, imperial expansion relied on the increased use of gunpowder cannons and armed trade to establish large empires in both hemispheres. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which empire building among one or more European maritime empires was different from empire building by Eurasian land empires. I cannot stress, make sure you're paying attention to the dates, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you are paying attention to the dates, and I will tell you, and you will see today, you must talk about both hemispheres, okay? So, you need to be talking in this prompt, you need to be talking about land and sea. So that's my hints for you. Land and sea empires. You need to be making those direct comparisons. The good thing is you're going to see what a rubric looks like for a direct comparison today. So tonight when you go home, hopefully you have a better understanding of exactly what it's going to look like. Sounds good? Perfect. All right, put your LEQ prompts away. Take out a blank sheet of paper. Oh, in second period, first of all, you're atrocious at putting your name on assignments. I have a ton of no-name papers on my wall. Do not stress about it as of yet. I'm going to put grades in today so you'll know exactly if you don't have anything over there. Is everyone clear on that? What?
I noticed there's like a bunch in the pile yesterday that it was a plan on top, so it didn't have a name on it.
Well, I can figure those things out. Yeah, I do have 3 degrees. I can figure that out. But if it wasn't anywhere on the paper, I would figure it out. So just wait until I put grades in today, and if you see a 0 and you turned it in, it's on my no-name wall of shame, yes? So it's fine. Everyone should be writing this down. Why don't we put our name at the top of the paper? Why don't we practice that skill second period? There you go. Now, as soon as I would finish writing this, I would take a picture of it because it's oddly similar to the LEQ you're writing tonight, and it would be nice, of course, to have it ready to go. I know, my hand's in the way, okay? I know. I'm just about done. I can. Oh, my pleasure. In case you wanted to know, it's out of 20 points.
You wrote the same thing.
Yep, same exact thing. As the one in the room who has 3 degrees, I said, nay, nay. If we're being honest, there, Brady. Max, what do you need, darling?
I'm just like, I didn't know you needed Eastern or Western in the same paragraph.
Yep.
Could you not write one paragraph on the Eastern and one on the Western?
Nope, you need to make the comparison. If you look at the prompt, it says comparison. You've got 30 seconds. Why don't you do both of them at the same time?
I'm gonna color the ones, it's the same thing. I can't color both if you like with me.
It's completely up to you, but if you already have it out and you put it away, it's kind of like,
There's no none on this box.
you have mine.
Oh, thank you.
Just here to help, girl. Got 10 seconds. If you can't color, you run out of time, that's fine. That is fine. What?
And what do you mean by like sentence 2 and sentence 3? I guess
The third sentence.
The third sentence should explain how it ties back to the prompt. You literally got this in your last, like, this is what we did the last time, which is what it's based on, dude. Right? Didn't we talk about writing LAQs? What do you got, Katie?
So tonight you would have like both A and C and like one piece notes.
One piece, but you would mention the land empires are using cannons to do, I don't want to give you any answers, but like, do this while sea empires are doing it to use
Like
this.
in the same paragraph.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's out of 20, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I did it right. Yeah. No. Yes. Wait. 7, 7, 8, 14. Yeah. Okay.
Right, it's out of 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did it
All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, put your LEQ. By the way, I would take a photo of it right now so you don't forget, because this is what the rubric is going to be very similar for tomorrow. Of course, it's not going to say example of Eastern and Western, of course. So make sure you have that so you can at least have that out on the table in front of you. This goes very similar to this one, yes? It just provides a little bit more specific to this specific essay, yeah? You should have been using both of them. You should have been using that one to write this essay. Ladies and gentlemen, put your rubric on top of your essay, on top of your planning, and of course put your name on the top. If your name's not clearly on the top of the page, do that now since we have so many no-name wall of shames. All right, hand it to someone who has not touched any of your assignments all week. Get up and go. I don't care. Find someone who hasn't graded any of your assignments. Guys, you're not getting married. You're not going on vacation together. You're just trading papers. It is literally not exciting. Then trade again, Max. It's not a big deal. Here we go. It's like we've never traded before. This is why second period, you are behind everyone else. I don't know what the problem is this week, but like, good God. Now that you have someone's essay, on the very bottom of the rubric, you're going to write your name. So I know who is touching everyone's essay. Okay, here we go. Looking at the essay. Everyone should just be reading the thesis paragraph at this time. Read the thesis paragraph. No one's scoring anything. No one's coloring anything. You are simply reading. Okay. Only thesis paragraph. Just a friendly reminder, let's look at the prompt one more time. In the period of 1450 to 1750, oceanic voyages resulted in the Columbian Exchange, which transformed Eastern and Western hemispheres. Develop an argument that evaluates how the Columbian Exchange affected people in both the Eastern and Western hemispheres. That both is why you have to address it in both parts, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, we can score the first part. Did they restate the prompt? Did they say, during the period of 1450 to 1750, the Columbian Exchange to open, blah, blah, blah? Yes? Give them the point. Okay, what are some answers you are seeing in this essay? Let's check for correctness. Brady.
So the hacienda system.
Yes, because we're looking at how it affects people, ladies and gentlemen. So, hacienda system is a good answer. That would score. Ben.
Doesn't that affect both hemispheres though?
You can talk about labor systems and stuff and kind of go from there. And of course, it is going to affect people in different regions. Okay? You can tie it back. You can tie it back for the fact that they are growing wealth and something to that degree, of course. Amelia.
Do you write about the spread of beasts of burden, like the animals?
Yeah, of course, for sure. What do you got, Max? Yes, but they would have to be very careful about how they affected populations and stuff like that. You could do it. You can make a good argument for it, and it would be an interesting one. They would just have to do a really good job of tying it back to how it affects people. Max.
Could you do it about like how patriarchy declined in Africa during the slave trade?
Patriarchy isn't going to really decline.
Well, since like a lot of males got shipped out.
Yes, I know, but the males who are still behind are going to amass more power.
Okay.
And it's going to create, what's it called when you're married, multiple people, multiple women? Polygamy is going to rise, which is as misogynistic as you get. So, no, that won't score. It's incorrect. What do you got, Katie?
Atlantic slave trade and Treaty of Tordesillas.
Slave trade, yes, of course. Treaty of Tordesillas, no, that's weird. No, that's weird, no. What do you got?
New crops and livestock and diseases.
Yes, that would be the easiest answers. Ben.
Mercantilism.
Yes, as long as they're constantly tying it back. The answer would score as long as they constantly tie back how it actually affects. Like they should be talking about mining as you go ahead. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, what do you got, Tula?
Overexploitation of slaves and
Harsh conditions to get goods out? That is really strange. No. One would work, the other one doesn't. It's all or nothing on these points, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, questions? All right, here we go. So, you should have scored. Now, it's all or nothing. They either get the point or they don't. Some of you are not getting 2 points. Okay, some of you are only getting 1 point. Pretty much everyone should be getting the 1 point, which is why I continue to have them, yes? Okay, here we go. Read their contextualization, please. Read their contextualization. Three, two, one. Okay, so let's talk about it. Your contextualization in the period of 1450 to 1750. You have to talk about the whole world. And this prompt really leads you to talking about the whole world. You can't just talk about Columbus. It shouldn't be about Columbus. Ladies and gentlemen, the most obvious answer you should be writing about is the competition of getting Asian goods. Right? It's the wanting to open the door to India and the Spice Islands, trying to cut out Italy from being the source of trade in Europe. Those are the easiest answers. That's the most obvious answer. Do we agree? Raise your hand if your person wrote about that. Oh God, then what the hell did you people write about? All right. Who has a question if their contextualization is correct? Katie.
It's about the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean Basin.
What about it?
In general, like, Islam's being spread in Timbuktu, Constantinople, countries.
No. Because, like, the whole prompt, ladies and gentlemen, you're talking about develop an argument that evaluates how the Columbian Exchange affected people in the Eastern and Western Hemisphere. You can't just talk about the East, so you can't just talk about the Americas and stuff, but you have to kind of talk about why people are showing up to this area. Now, if they're talking about the Indian Ocean Basin and they're talking about how that's where the major source of goods are and the major sense of wealth is, and that's one thing. But if they're not, then hopefully they got the restating point, right?
Yeah.
And you could give them focuses on the whole world, but everything else is wrong. Abby.
I read about the Treaty of Tordesillas.
That would work. Treaty of Tordesillas would work. Treaty of Tordesillas does work. Talking old world, new world, totally scores. Absolutely. Okay, Ben.
Since the Columbian Exchange is just the exchange between the Eastern and Western hemispheres, can we write like how the triangular trade is happening, but at the same time they're trading across the Pacific Ocean?
No, because it's very much redundant of what the essay will be a part of. So no, it won't score. Not on contextualization.
Like even if we're talking about like the trading of goods across.
Yeah, because they want you to kind of connect it to like the whole world kind of thing.
Well, like if we say like they sailed to find a route to India that was faster, because Italy was blocking them off. And
Well, that's literally what I started with, and that's the easiest argument. Does that make sense? Brady.
Was talking about Japan WK and how like Christianity entered and then it was like kicked out because of the trade.
What are they tying it to? Like, are they? That's weird. You could make an argument for it, talking about the Western influence is becoming a burden.
Well, Europe was bringing in Christianity, but Japan wanted to preserve their culture because it's too much trade.
Yes. Did they do a decent job of explaining how? Okay, if they did a decent job, I'll let it score. But if they did like Japan, that's weird. Yeah. But if they did a decent job, I'll accept. It's actually a pretty good one. What do you got?
As if they talked about like the exchange of like technology and diseases and everything everywhere, and then for examples.
No,
like,
that's literally the essay, so no. Sorry. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've already done color your thesis pink and your contextualization purple, if it's right. If it's not right, then I would leave it blank because they, didn't earn the point. Okay, so everyone should have scored their thesis and contextualization part. Yes? How are we doing? Okay. Friendly reminder. Let's look at the prompt. Prompt again. Develop an argument that evaluates how the Columbian Exchange affected people in both the Eastern and Western hemispheres. It is both. Here we go. All right. Read the first paragraph and then we'll start talking about it, please. Oof. You are just reading the first paragraph, and then we'll go back through and score. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what are some pieces of evidence that you should be looking at? We already kind of covered those, yes? So you should know if the evidence is correct or not at this point. So everyone should be getting the topic sentences restated, yes? Okay, these are easy points. That's why they're on the paper. All right, second step is explaining the evidence. So what is a piece of evidence you were seeing on your paper, Macy?
The hacienda system.
Okay, and what are they saying about it? Do they explain the system?
Yeah.
Okay, so the second sentence should be explaining whatever the piece of evidence is. Hacienda system is a work system, is a labor system that is forcing the indigenous to serve the populations of the conquistadors and other Spanish. Yes? That's it. If they have that where they're explaining the evidence, that works. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if they have bad evidence, like their evidence is wrong, the whole thing's wrong. Now, okay, so you can give them the topic sentence. You can give them that one. But if the evidence is wrong, they can't get points for explaining the evidence because it's based on having correct evidence. Does that make sense? Hello? So you can't get points for explaining something that's wrong. So it's a 0 all the way down because it's wrong to start. Welcome to real grading. So if you got it wrong, you can only get 1 point, and that is me being generous, if you can believe it. Everything else is wrong. Natalie.
Okay, in the topic sentence, it brings up sugarcane as that's what the natives were used to harvest, but then it talks about the Pueblo revolt, and I don't know that much about that.
Pueblo revolt is about the Spanish, but if they don't make a clear example of how it ties back, then I'd start giving zeros. If you don't understand how it connects back to the prompt, then it'd be a 0. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, ICU Ben, give me 2 seconds. Okay, so they explain the evidence. They talk about the hacienda system, but then they tie it back to the prompt, ladies and gentlemen. They talk about how the hacienda system affected people in the Western Hemisphere. That this is more oppressive than traditional slavery that was used in Africa or in Arab. You see how easy it is to incorporate both? Hello? You didn't have to do anything crazy to do it. You just had to be making comparisons back and forth. You had to show that you understand the prompt and you understand the changes that were occurring. Okay, so you had to tie it back to the prompt. Okay, Ben, what is your question, dude?
If they have an evidence that only refers to one hemisphere, do we still count it as wrong?
Yeah, but they can't get the second point.
What do you mean?
Well, down below, they're going to have Eastern or Western Hemisphere. Does that?
If it's
Yeah,
population?
they can have one. They only need to refer to the other hemisphere one other time to get the second point.
But what if it's an evidence that only affects one hemisphere?
But did they tie it somehow to another? then no, then they can't get the other point. They can still get the point for in here. So hacienda system only occurs in the Western Hemisphere. Does that make sense?
Well, they weren't like population boom, which only happened in the
No, yeah, that's true. But if they can say in the Western Hemisphere, it's going to cause a population decrease as long as they're tying it back. Now, I haven't gotten there yet, Ben, so I'm up here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're still looking at evidence. So, the evidence, they're using a specific term. So, we have hacienda system, explains hacienda system. Sentence that explains how it ties back to the prompt. Because of the opening up of European powers, New Spain, they implement the hacienda system to create plantations, okay? They're going to use conquistadors who conquered the territory are now, as a gift from the Spanish king, are going to be able to grow these farms. That's my piece of evidence. Explains how the evidence connects to the prompt. These plantations are going to be the foundation of what, or farming would, mining would actually be easier if you talk about mercantilism, which is the new economy that is going to start, new economic style that is going to start booming at this time, which is going to cause hellish working conditions, those types of things. How it affects in the Eastern. Now, one of these you already earned right off the bat. Does that make sense? You probably earned the Western Hemisphere one very quickly, right? You focused on the Americas, so you should have already earned that point right away. Tying it to something else in the Eastern Hemisphere is how you get that point, okay? If you're writing about transatlantic slavery, talking about how slavery is... suppresses people culture unlike that of traditional Arab slavery that has been happening since the time of the Romans, that would be a connection to get that Eastern point. So you can get the Eastern and Western point anywhere in the paragraph. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be at the end. But did they acknowledge the other hemisphere somewhere in that paragraph? Is everyone clear on how to score that point? One of these points you should automatically get. You probably focused on Western, but did they acknowledge the Eastern Hemisphere is probably the one you didn't get the point on. Yes.
He listed like gold, iron, corn, sugarcane that was brought to the east from the west, causing boom in trade, and then it also says something about like militarism, that.
No, guys, just listing a bunch of things that goes to the Eastern Hemisphere is not good enough. Because remember, the essay is not about goods, it's about people. It's about people. So the population boom is a really good answer, honestly. They may just not have done it well. The population boom is going to occur in the Eastern Hemisphere because of new food items. However, because of the disease, which is also being spread, is going to cause a massive population decline in the West. So that opposite effect is totally fine and will score the point on an essay like this. It doesn't have to be matchy-matchy. It can say, hey, this is happening here, but it's the opposite there. That's totally fine and definitely would score. It's an acknowledgement that you understand what is happening in both hemispheres because of this interconnectedness. Now, of course, if you're just sitting there staring off into space, you could be coloring in your essay in the colors that we have here, yes? What do you got, Nicole?
So, like, the first paragraph was about, like, the spread of the diseases. Could the evidence be, like, smallpox and how it came from the conquistadors and, like, why it caused, like, the population to, like, go down because of the immune to it?
Smallpox would be the evidence, right?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, but the Eastern one, is that what you're referring to?
Oh, no, I'm talking about the Western one.
Yeah, knowing that smallpox, that's the evidence, yeah.
Okay. But, like, what you were saying, so it can focus on, like, one hemisphere as long as you just kind of...
Yeah, as long as you tie. Like, the easiest answer to the smallpox thing is going to the Western Hemisphere. What is the only disease going to the Eastern? Syphilis. That would be the easiest thing. While smallpox is going and wiping out millions of people to the Western Hemisphere, the only disease that makes it to the Eastern Hemisphere will be syphilis. What do you got?
So, like, for tonight, it would be, like, one main piece of evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're just acknowledging that there's a difference.
It's how, like, disease or something affects the...
Yeah, let me just pull up the prompt. So tonight's essay, ladies and gentlemen, develop an argument that evaluates to which extent empire building among one or more European maritime empires was different from empire building in Eurasia. So you're going to say something about your maritime, and you're going to connect it to something in your land-based.
In each of the.
Yes. So, I mean, it's kind of Eastern-Western again. You're just talking land-based versus maritime. Except you could use maritime in the Indian Ocean Basin, which I would personally use because I've got a bunch of examples already in my head for that one. Okay? How are we doing? Okay, so your essay should be totally colored. Your green topic sentence, your blue second evidence, your yellow is your explanations, your orange is your evidence piece. Your red is where they talk about Eastern and Western. Okay. Let's look at the second content paragraph. What?
Can you color if it's wrong?
No, don't color if it's wrong. If it's wrong, unfortunately. And that is something you really need to come to terms with, because if something is wrong, it's wrong. And you're not going to get any points. There's no real participation points. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry, I guess. What do you got?
Evidence specific to same for both paragraphs?
If they get it for the first paragraph, not for the second. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're using the same pieces of evidence over and over again, you'll get credit the first time you use it. You'll get no credit the second time. So if you keep using the same pieces of information, you are going to get blown up because you will not score the point. Not score the point. Okay. How are we looking on second? Any questions on the second paragraph? Are we doing better on the second one? How's your person doing? Any questions? What do you got, Katie? Treaty of Tordesillas works in contextualization.
So like it wouldn't be good evidence.
No. No. It's more of a political thing than how it affects people. So it just doesn't make sense. If it was talking... That would work, but not on this one. Does that make sense? This one would work. Tonight, so it would work. Tomorrow it wouldn't.
Thanks for that.
You'd have to argue it, right? But it would work for that one. Max, you got a question? Max, you good?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Like the orange,
Yeah.
do they have to like put like more evidence after they're tied back to the prompt?
Yeah. Because like, so the way the rubric reads is they just say evidence, but they're talking about like the correct answer, which would be this, like whatever it is, and then evidence to support it.
Okay.
So they use evidence over and over again, and I don't like it, but that's what the rubric says, which is why I'm continuing that pattern. I would say, what's the correct answer, and then what's the evidence to prove it here? But they use evidence over and over again, so I'm trying to be consistent. Does that make sense? So that's why you see evidence over and over again. Essentially, what is the correct answer? What is the evidence you have to support it? And the evidence is any like vocab term that you've learned or some really specific piece of information. Like yesterday, Somali, saddle is a perfect piece of evidence. Okay? What do you got?
I remember two positives and negatives.
Well, can we get there? I'm trying to keep everyone here together. Okay. So at this point, you should have scored your essay, correct? At the bottom of the page, you need to write their score over 20. So it is clear as day what their score is. You mean the paper that's been there the whole time? Got it. Okay. What you are going to do, whether on the front or on the back, you are going to write two pieces of positive feedback and one piece of constructive feedback. Okay, when we talk about constructive criticism, something that helps them right now. If it was hard reading their essay, that's a piece of constructive criticism. Your handwriting is really hard to read. Also, if they're not following the formats of the rubric, isn't it easy when everything lines up nicely? Hello? Yes? Okay. That would be, make sure you're following the LEQ formats. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you're saying nice things, don't say, this was nicely written. Or, wow, great job. Woo. Like, no, like, come on, dude. Put some actual thought into it, huh? Oh, yeah, that's the one I live with. That's the one my husband fell in love with right there. Okay, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, give real feedback. Hey, your explanation of the Hacienda system was really, really clear and very thorough. That's a great piece of feedback. Great pieces of evidence in your piece. You really know your stuff. That is nice. People want to see that. People have worked hard on these essays. Constructive criticism needs to be appropriate. Don't tell them you should drop AP World. It's not particularly helpful. But apparently it's an option. I had 2 people drop yesterday. Yeah. I didn't know it was an option either. So wild. So if you're thinking about it, drop it. Fine by me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start passing around the staplers. Brady or Alex, isn't there one right next to you? Here, you can grab that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it goes rubric essay planning. Rubric essay planning. Guys, as soon as you get the stapler, that's priority 1. Staple and put it away. Dawson, don't be so flagrant. Okay, everyone should have someone else's essay on their desk. I haven't given you those instructions, thank you. Okay. What I would like you to do is get up. Isn't that nice? Get up and walk and hand it to your person and explain why they got the score they got. It's nice to get up. What, your essay or his essay? Talk to him. This isn't my time with you. This is
Yeah. You did really well and you covered a lot of content. You just need to work on your handwriting. It's crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I like couldn't decide. Oh, we have to. I'm not. Don't we have to do this after?
5, 4, 3, 2. Alice, I'd hate to interrupt your Snapchatting over there, but do you think I could have a minute? Thank you so much. Is that Snapchat? I don't know. I don't have a Snapchat. I don't know what it looks like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how'd you do?
Could have done worse.
Could have done worse? All right, so tonight, do we have a better understanding of what this essay should look like to a degree? Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to write essentially 2 essays in one. It's just a simple acknowledgement of the other side. Does that make sense? So, just simply stating a small piece of information in regards to the other side is all you need to do. It literally could be like 6 words, and that would score you the point. It's just a simple acknowledgement of this is happening here, but this was what they were doing here. And it doesn't always have to be they're both using this in the same way. You can say they're using it this way and these people aren't using it because they're using this instead. Then,
You said this was worth 6 points in the AP exam.
yes.
Is that just the first paragraph, section 1, contextualization?
So how it breaks down, if you look at your LEQ sheet that I gave you, this is how it actually breaks down. You get 1 point for the thesis, 1 point for contextualization. You get 2 points for essentially having correct answers. You get 2 points for having correct analysis, tying it back to the prompt. And then you get your comparisons. So that's how you get points.
Like a point in paragraph, would we just get 0 points, or would we get
So I'm trying to give you more points and more opportunities to do well instead of saying, yep, 0, 0, 0, 0, because that's really harsh. And I think if you're taking the time to write these essays, you should be getting more than 6 points, right? So by adding more points to the rubric, it's to benefit you and give you more opportunities to score more points. It's also more opportunities to lose points too, if you look at it that way, but most of the times you're getting, that's why we do restate the prompt. That's Samantha Bennett trying to give you a free point here. So with that being said, that's why. Yeah, they're just going to read your paragraph and either give you a point or not. They're not going to try to figure out, oh, did they do that? Did they do that? They're going to read it for the wholeness, and if it goes, they'll be reading your essays and scoring them in less than 2 minutes. I think they do LEQs in about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Because they have, last year they graded, I think, 900,000 essays.
So if they're just like, I don't like this one.
So you think that they're going to travel all the way to Utah and they're going to sit there and say, out of all of these 900 and something essays, that they're going to say, that kid, I hate him? No. Take your essay as you are leaving and putting your crayons away. Toss them by the front door. Thank you. Goodbye. Each person doesn't grade 1,000 essays. Each person only grades 200. But they have 5 days to do it. There's a table of them at check. There's a table leader. It's not a perfect system, but effective. Wait, let me put that
Are these longer than the DBQs?
No.
No, like the paragraph.
No. No. If you
But
think
they're
these are
longer than
long, you're in big trouble.
Oh, but they're longer than the SAQ, so why are they worth less?
What are you talking about? I haven't shown you the official SAQ rubric. They're 3 points each. What?
I don't understand how the trivia for the CS
Because you're talking about how it affects people.
Yeah, so I said that it pushed Portugal to conquer more of Africa, which is the Eastern Hemisphere, and then it pushed Spain to conquer more.
Well, darling, I'm going off of what the person who was asking me the question from sitting up here was giving me, yes?
Yeah.
So if you disagree with it, put it in the box and I will score it first.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
But you have to understand, I'm also going whatever anyone is telling me.
No, I get that.
Yeah, so